Thank you so much, Natalie. And also thank you to Beezy. As you say, the universe presents. And there were a few things that Beezy said up front that dial directly into the conversation that we're going to be having, which is start that conversation. I think the first things is that wishes to manifest and how your thoughts can actually project how you feel about yourself. They want to make that profound difference in something and an ability to change the conversation. And so thank you, Beezy, for leading us right into this conversation around starting the conversation. And thank you, Natalie, for the introduction. Now, yes, we're going to talk about starting the conversation, but to me, why am I in this place of having this conversation and what is the back end to my story? As Natalie has clearly put out, I am the owner of a digital marketing agency in New Zealand, and I've been in the area of technology for more years than I care to remember. But as every single woman that stands here, we not only what we do, and Beezy correctly said that, we have other parts to us. And those other parts are my family. I'm the mother of two gorgeous boys. And it was one night as I walked into my son's bedroom and I said to my son, who was at that stage, the age of 13, I said to him, Matthew, come for dinner. And he said to me, Mum, I can't come for dinner. And I could see he was reasonably anxious. And I said to him, why can't you come for dinner? And he said to me, Mum, I can't come for dinner because I'm helping a young girl who wants to take her life. And I thought to myself, how on earth am I, understanding all the technology that I do, understanding the benefits and the beauty of social media, not adequately protected my own child from that environment or prepared him for the conversations that he needed to be having and was having. And believe me, ladies, those are conversations that are happening in our young children's bedrooms on a regular basis. And I ask you if you've prepared your children for that very conversation. After that conversation, I reached out to so many people. I reached out to Sonia, who's actually on the call. I reached out to doctors. I reached out to medical professionals. I reached out to people working in the environment, and every single person pointed to the fact that there was an alarming issue around social media and our young people. That became my purpose, to make a difference and to start those different conversations. But the gorgeous face that you see on the screen is a lovely young girl who was very close to me, Roxy Hill. And Roxy took her life suffering from digital anxiety and digital related depression. And as I look at that smiling face, I will tell you today that Roxy has become my why to help ensure that no other family goes through what Roxy's family has had to go through. So as we look at the information, where are we in this realm of statistics and information that we're wanting to start a different conversation about? If we look at it, 21% has increased in depression in boys. And look at those dates. Those dates are between 2012 and 2015. That isn't the uptake of when social media has really started, but we can already see an increase in depression. 50% increase in depression in girls between that same age. 90% of teens and young adults by that age owned a smartphone. And I will say to you that I have two boys, one now aged 19 and one aged 15. And the incremental impact of social media between that 4-year age gap has been phenomenal. And I honestly believe that we're at the bottom of a curve that we want to have an impact on, so we don't reach the proportion of mental health on our young people that I believe we could do if we don't actually make a stand. 150% increase in suicide rates of girls between the ages of 10 and 14. 65% in the suicide rate for girls between 12 to 17. Now you might say, why am I focusing on girls? Boys also have a higher percentage chance of mental health related issues, particularly if they've been bullied in that online space. And then the last is about the fact that if anyone is spending more than 5 hours in a social media online environment, they do have a higher percentage chance of having related mental health issues. So with those as our facts, the I'm Enough Trust came into being. And the I'm Enough Trust is really about creating support for our young people and those that care about them. As parents, we head off into the school environment and we head off to those days where they're going to talk to us about digital. And many parents come back and go, this is a bad environment and you need to get off this environment. But I say to you that every single one of us has to accept this environment. But it's about how do we support our young people to become resilient in that environment and give them some coping strategies to be able to manage their online world with the reality of those person-to-person conversations. As part of our process and to make the change in the conversation, as Beezy said, we're developing programs that can go into schools. We're in the process of those grant applications to support the work that we do. And the work is needed because I am so proud of the fact that we've raised 202,000 New Zealand dollars based on in-kind contributions. Those are speakers who are donating their times, people who've come behind our cause to support making a change, because every single person that we speak to says that I'm enough is probably the most undervalued terminology in our own mindset. And as Natalie has just said, we've completed an awareness drive with over 20 people speaking to start those different conversations. And it's amazing to see how each of those speakers is starting to take that very concept of let's start a conversation, I'm enough, into their own worlds. And that is the purpose of what change we're wanting to make in the world. So 6 tips for you to consider as you go about your daily lives. The first step is loneliness. We are raising a generation that is connected in that online world, but they are probably one of the loneliest generations coming through. They've got many connections, but how many true friends do they have? How many I heart moments do they actually have? And when they come together, do they physically make a decision to put down their devices and actually share in the physical moment, be in that positive mindset and enjoy each other's company? It's a fact that lack of I heart moments, like Dr. Fran Bryn, who volunteers her services for I'm Enough, says, I heart connections support self-esteem. Loneliness reduces self-esteem, and lack of self-esteem can lead to depression. Second tip is, if you're considering where to go, self-esteem, which we've just covered. How many times have you looked on other people's social media and you actually don't believe that your life lives up to what their life is about? And we are completely envy. And the reality of that envy is that Facebook envy, that Instagram envy, that TikTok envy. Somebody's got more views than you. On Instagram, they've got more followers than you. On Facebook, perhaps they've had more likes and engagement than you. And as you look at those socially created worlds of perfection of other people, you suddenly start questioning what your own life stands for. But actually putting into a mindset that what we're seeing is that movie snippet of somebody's world of perfection that they want us to see. We don't see the dog biting the cat, excuse my cat in the background, but the dog biting the cat in the background. We don't see those photos. Tip number 3 to me is those human connections. We understand that there is a huge element in social media about that fear of missing out. The lack of those human connections, which we've just said, and that sense of belonging. I was talking to a young girl, and actually I think Natalie and you and I covered the story where that fear of missing out led a young person to put the phone away over the Christmas period because she felt all her friends were sharing pictures about them being on a holiday destination and she wasn't there, and she realized that that wasn't doing much for her mental health. So the point of this is, if you feel that this environment is getting to you, whether it's you or your young people, talk about the fact that they can actually put their devices down for a short while and take that step away. Our memory. It's a known fact that our recall based on social media and those perfectly produced pictures that we share distort our memory of events. And actually, numerous parents have said to us, we'll take our children somewhere and they walk in and they see the sunrise or they see the sunset or they see the scenery and they take a picture and then they look around and say, we're ready to go now. because they've achieved their goal for social media, or they've achieved their goal for Instagram, and actually they haven't sat and embraced the moment of being in that very place that they're in, to enjoy what that has, to enjoy the company of those people. And effectively, they are creating memories that are in part and distorted from the reality, which is life. Our tip number 5 is that of sleep. And we had some speakers on our 20 speaker event. And one of the big things is that having a phone and access to your social media for a period before you go to bed can create a moment of anxiety when you see something, a moment of envy when you see something. And those moments of anxiety or envy can create a higher level of alert in the brain, which stops you from falling asleep. So put your devices away before you go to bed. And the other thing is those devices next to you with the lights that flicker through the night, again, can suppress the release of melatonin and a natural form of sleep agent in our body that we all need. Number 6 will be that attention span. I work in a young environment. I have young members on my teams, and the ping next to them is an instant distraction to something else away from the task that they were focused on. If you place rats in that same environment where you are binging them, eventually the rats become so highly anxious that they don't know where to go to. So if you do have to focus on a task, put those devices away. And again, these are pieces of suggestions for each and every one of us to either use on ourselves or into that home environment. What are our current reality, or what is our current reality on a daily basis? I've chosen this picture because I want to indicate to you that I honestly believe that social media is a rose, but every rose, as beautiful as it is, has thorns, and it's the thorns that we want to have those conversations about. What is our current reality? As we go into schools, we find out that counsellors who are supporting our young people tell us that they know nothing about social media and they can't support our children in there. We want to get in there alongside them and help them so that they can start changing the conversations. The mother who sent her young child out to a play date and a sleepover had a child come back who was encouraged to watch porn at another person's house. Have you prepared your children to not be exposed to those situations and given them suggestions on how they can get out of it? The paedophile network coming from a profile that belonged to a child in the classroom. The self-harm in your own child's bedrooms, and we speak a young person is a and already this year, our school has had 3 tragedies. We need your support. I leave this picture here for a very short period of time. And I ask every single one of you that we are responsible for setting the example to our young people. How often don't you see somebody with going out with a young person and they're on their devices and not actually being part of that conversation? So what am I able to share with each of you? We have a huge amount of free resources to download. Contributors, if anyone listening to this believes they have something to contribute to this conversation, we'll welcome you with open arms to have that. And obviously, as with any charity, donations are absolutely appreciated. Now, in terms of that, Natalie spoke to the Building of Resilience Kiwi program, and we've got a huge amount of valuable resources in that. We also have downloads on our website that you can choose to download if you need to download them. But I want to leave you with a statement, and that is that you are enough. You are so enough. It's so unbelievable how enough you really are. And take that message forward to your young people. And to my special angel, Roxy, you are so loved, and I know that you are eagerly encouraging me and giving me air beneath my wings to continue this conversation so that no other family has to go through what you went through and what your family has gone through. Rest in peace, my beautiful angel. Now, would you consider donating a value of 1 cup of coffee to us once a month to support our young people? I'd encourage you, if that is within your realms of possibility, to do that, because we are making a huge amount of progress in this conversation. And as Natalie has also said, I would also be taking on a workshop later on in this particular series around surviving social media workshop. So please book and come into that workshop. We'll be there. Sonia will be joining me, and all proceeds will go to I'm Enough. So any proceeds from that workshop will actually go to I'm Enough. Natalie, back to you.